Downtown Decatur, it's the Faber Files. Hello, I'm your host, Bill Faber. Because democracy demands debate, we present this program of public issues and interests local to our community. Nowhere else on broadcast TV do you see a long-term interview, a 30-minute interview with people of our community, candidates running for office, people who are the movers and shakers and making things happen. This evening's guest is Connie Peters, who is a candidate for District 61 School Board. Connie, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Great. What made you decide to step up and run for school board? That's a tough job.
Well, actually I ran for school board when I was 22 years old.
Really?
And lost pitifully and haven't said much about it until now. 6 years ago, I was going to put in my 4-year letter for retirement, and people were saying, what are you going to do after you retire? And the first thing that came to mind was run for school board. I felt like I was qualified. I'd worked in the school districts and lived in Decatur all my life and knew a lot of people, and I felt that that was the best place for me to do my volunteering.
Yes.
In the school district.
What is your professional educational background?
Well, I have a bachelor's from Millikan University in social studies and language arts. I have a master's from University of Illinois Springfield, which was Sangamon State. I was in the first graduating class of Sangamon State, and that's also in history. And then I have a master's in library science and a educational specialist degree in instructional media from Eastern Illinois University. And most of my adult life, I've worked as a school librarian. I taught for 4 years, 1 year at MacArthur as a social studies teacher, and 3 years at Mound Middle School as a social studies teacher. My last 9 years were at Eisenhower High School as a librarian.
Yes. Tell us why the librarian and the library in those schools that you've served at and the schools that we're looking at today. Why is a library so important?
Well, for me, the librarian that can do the modern technical stuff especially can help the students out so much, because they're in the library working on computers, and they come to a problem, they don't know how to solve it. Or they come to to a website that is not reliable at all. It's just, and they don't know how to handle that. They don't know necessarily that that's not a legitimate website, so they need the guidance.
Yes.
So it's more of a one-on-one type of environment than the classroom, where the teacher has maybe 20 or 25 students to deal with.
Yes. You really kind of hone their skills, their analytical skills, their informational skills, their research skills.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. I can recall from my college days having a course in political science research, and it was extraordinary what we learned from the professor in terms of analyzing. It's something that stays with me today.
Yes.
Yeah. So as you are looking at the school board, what is your policy platform? What advances do you wish to speak to, and what changes do you want to see made?
Well, when I think about it, I've got a platform, and it's I talk about climate and culture and several different things, but my focus is hope, and I want to see hope brought back to the students and to the staff of Decatur Public Schools. And I have an idea of how I'd like to go about trying to do that. And that is to copy a program that I've heard about, where the students, when they're in high school, they work towards what they're going to do after high school, and the school actually helps them find where they need to go and find the money somehow to pay for it.
Okay.
And I've heard now that our school system is thinking about eliminating industrial tech, and I think that's a big mistake, because Decatur needs skilled workers, and they need students that can do that kind of work, and there's students that can't do the other work or don't like to do the other work. They need to work with their hands.
Sure.
So that would be part of my plan to have every student, when they graduate from Decatur Public Schools, have a plan of what they're going to do when they leave.
So there would be a follow-through after graduation.
Yes, there would need to be that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that the student is just not left to their own thinking. They can get some guidance even afterwards when they really need it a lot, because they're out there all by themselves, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember myself when I was going to college, when I was getting set to go and everything, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to do anything, and it was just kind of fumble around. And,
sure.
And many of our students don't have the whatever it takes to go and do that by themselves.
Yes.
They need somebody to help them.
Right. I know teachers can make a big difference in our lives, and each of us can maybe think of that one or two teachers that really made an impact on us. And I know following graduation, I really deeply appreciated a phone call or a letter or an inquiry from a teacher that I had, just trying to check up, and they can be very life-changing conversations.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I always tell about a student when I registered at Millikan, when I was getting my first class list and everything, and this student was working at registration, and she said, recognized my name, and she said, I know who you are. You were behind me in school. Mm-hmm. And that first year was so hard because I didn't know anything about college.
Right.
And every time I would get down and think, just about ready to give up, I would see this lady.
Nice.
And she kind of got me through my freshman year and on through college.
Yes.
Just by being there.
Right. Well, your comment about technical and vocational education, as you know, in Europe, they have a two-track system for education. If the examinations don't allow the student to get into university, which for the most part is all free, they're then directed to vocational training, so that those countries have the manpower to keep their nation moving forward.
Yes.
Because those are the people that build the country, not the stockbrokers and the bankers.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. Is that kind of what you had in mind in terms of shoring up the vocational?
Well, it's a concept to look at. I'm not sure that that it would be accepted in that way, in that form. It would have to be modified.
Sure.
For the Decatur area, I would think.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Right.
I've said all along, I know from working on committees and things that there's a lot I don't know that nobody knows until they get into the seat, and then they find out. So.
Right. Well, you bring a really extensive academic credentials and experience in the educational system to the job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe I do.
Mm-hmm. Some of the school board members who are on the school board or running for election do not have the educational experience like you have.
That may be true.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that an educator maybe has an advantage on the school board working with the superintendent, maybe be able to understand more clearly or deeply what the issues are?
Yes, I believe so, because you really know, after you come out of the system, you really know the ins and outs more than others, and you know the temperament of people. I don't know how to describe that, except that I believe different professions have different expectations, and I think I understand school staff.
Right. So we have about 9,000 students in District 61, about 500 teachers. It's quite an organization to run.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Mm-hmm. In terms of the problems in the school, what problems are you identifying, either with graduation or behavior or truancy or whatever? What are you identifying, anything along those lines?
All of those would be important, but also money issues. I think there's fiscal issues that probably need to be addressed.
Okay.
And shored up, and one would be the fact that they just bought all new equipment for the industrial tech room at Eisenhower, and now they want to close the program down.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the machines and things are sold for pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's irresponsible.
Sure.
I think discipline's a problem, and it varies between administrators.
Okay.
I think, and probably between buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What would you propose to address the discipline issues?
well, I'd served on the discipline committee for the district, and the Code of Conduct handbook talks about being progressive.
2 new messages.
New
messages.
But
Did you say?
I'm sorry.
Right. When you're a candidate, everyone wants to talk to you.
I knew, but this is a crazy phone. It I have to. If I
Device will power. Yeah.
I have to, if I turn the volume, if I turn the sound off, it doesn't ring either.
So we were
Okay,
talking
I'm
about
sorry.
discipline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The handbook talks about being a progressive discipline, but actually many of the offenses, the administrator has the right, or according to the Code of Conduct, to give warnings. First offense warning, second offense warning, third offense warning. And it seems to me by the time they've had 3 or 4 warnings, you know, it's time to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
The message is not getting through.
Right, right. So what do we do with those students when the message isn't getting through?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the things I've heard about is this restorative justice
Mhm.
that they're talking about. And actually, I'd read a book a few years ago, and it was a larger offense than a school offense, but this young boy was sent to an island to be by himself,
Mm.
and it was very interesting. Anyway, that was the same principle. So if students are willing to do something to make up for what they've done
Right.
wrong, then, you know, that's a way of teaching them.
Sure.
I think we have to try all kinds of alternatives
Okay.
to find something that works.
Sure.
But Decatur has had other alternatives in the past. They've had Saturday school for detentions. They've done away with detentions. They've done away with Saturday school. So there's not a lot of things to do except, you know, out-of-school suspension.
Sure.
Or they do have in-school suspension too.
I think this District 61 statistics show that over 70% of the students are at poverty level.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
And yet we understand from the research that probably the single most important and telling indicator of academic performance is the income level of the students.
Yes,
The higher the income, the better the performance.
yes.
So how do you get poverty level student body to meet the same performance levels of the rich kids?
I understand your question, but back to the idea of restoring hope, I think part of the problem is that the students don't try because they don't see a future.
They don't see a future.
They don't see a purpose in
Right.
trying.
Mhm. When your idea about restoring hope, do you identify a morale problem either with the students or with the teachers?
Oh, with both.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the staff feels like, you know, if you're in a failing school, then you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they didn't feel that on their own, you know, they're told that
Yes.
in other places.
Right.
You know.
Right. So if we could turn to the staff and the teachers, how would you restore hope with those folks?
For one thing, I think they just need to know that they're appreciated by the higher ups.
Mhm.
And I think in some places they are, and in some places they aren't.
Okay. When you say the higher ups, who do you refer to?
Well, the assistant principals and principals in their buildings,
Okay.
and those at the Kyle building. And I think the Kyle building, I think they're working hard to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it is the job of the leadership to instill pride, confidence, and hope in those that they're leading.
Yes.
Yes. And how about the student body? What plan would you propose to help them with the hope?
One of the things I've been thinking of is having, especially freshman students as they come into the high schools, assigned to a teacher.
Okay.
And I don't know how many teachers it would take, I mean, how many students per teacher, but kind of a mentoring program.
A mentoring program.
Where the teacher would check up now and then on
Okay.
the students.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All of that would kind of have to be worked out because,
Yeah.
you know, if you tell a teacher, we're gonna give you 10 kids and you're responsible for them, you gotta contact them and all this, that's just added work for the teachers.
Sure, sure.
So, it's something that would kind of need to be gradually brought in, and maybe, teachers volunteer for it.
Okay.
And maybe you wouldn't have to do it with all the freshmen to start with, maybe you could identify problem students.
Sure, sure. What do you believe to be an effective student-teacher ratio? What would be the ideal?
I think most teachers would probably say around 15, but I would think 20 would be a nice number.
What is the ratio of our student-to-teacher ratio right now in 261?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Mhm.
I know that the statistics are probably not accurate
Mhm.
because we have so many teachers at the PDI building and other places that are certified teachers, so they're included in that
I see.
ratio, I think.
So the
Okay.
ratio might be lower than it really is.
Yes, I
Yes.
think so.
Yeah. Mhm. What do you think about the school year or extending the school day or the school year as a vehicle to improve performance?
Well, I think Decatur has tried that a few times, and I don't, well, not extending the school year, but extending the school day.
Mhm.
And it ends up with students either skipping first hour or skipping last hour.
Sure.
I don't know, I think that if the teachers could actually teach the times that they're in the class, I think they could accomplish something without
Yes,
extending
yes.
the school day.
Right.
But I do believe, at least in high schools, that you have students interrupting the class to where
Mm.
teacher has to stop and deal with discipline
Sure.
before they can go on.
You know, Connie, this is what I believe. I believe that aside from being a parent, the most important job in our society is being a teacher. How do you think that the community or the society is treating teachers or viewing teachers or appreciating teachers?
Well, I think the way people look at teachers has gone dramatically downhill in the last 40, 50 years. And, go ahead.
How was it before? How were teachers viewed 40 years ago?
I think they were respected.
Respected?
And I think today it's more they're considered, you don't make as much as I do, and, there's just not much prestige to being a teacher anymore.
Why? What has prompted that change in attitude or that change of respect level to a teacher?
Well, as I said, part of it is the salary.
The salary?
And what I always said, I've had students say, you don't make much. I'd say, if you're doing something you like to do, you can get by on the salary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've always believed. But also, now it's a state issue with the teachers' pensions and not just teachers' pensions, but
Right.
Many politicians in the state are suggesting that the teacher retirement pensions and the firemen and the policemen and all that they're the ones that are responsible for our state being so far in the hole.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
That's not true, right. In terms of pay, I understand in Europe, for example, the Scandinavian countries, the teachers have a great level of social respect and are paid at the level of a college professor.
Yes, I understand that too.
Yeah. And I know in Wall Street, when the bankers want a good candidate, they pay that candidate.
Yeah, that's true.
And when the Chicago Cubs or St. Louis Cardinals want a good ball player, they pay that guy
Yeah.
to get him there. So why don't we want to pay our teachers a salary that's going to attract the best and brightest? Why are we reluctant to do that?
Well, I think because people feel like it comes out of their own pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and not just businessmen, but everyone feels like that because it is a public service and they are paying our salaries.
Yeah. So what can be more important to our American society than the education of its greatest resource, its kids?
That's true.
Yeah. Maybe we ought to have a fresh look at this. Huh?
Yeah.
What do you think would be a fair salary for a teacher, for the Decatur school to attract good or better teachers, or more good teachers, shall we say?
Well, I would think a starting salary probably around 40,000,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot, and I'm not sure what the starting salary would be, including benefits now, but I don't think it's that much.
Sure.
But you have these young teachers coming out of college with loans
Yes.
they need to pay back, and starting life, you know, needing to buy furniture
Right.
and all kinds of things, cars. And,
Sure.
And I know it's hard on them.
Yeah. It's amazing to learn the statistic that there's more owed in student loans than on credit cards throughout the country.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a good idea that if someone's going to be a teacher, commit to that profession, that their student loan be forgiven, so that they could accept the position in Decatur instead of maybe having to go to Chicago or St. Louis?
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things we used to talk about in DEA was,
What is DEA? The
Decatur Education Association,
right, which is a teachers union.
yes, it is, was the fact that Decatur doesn't entice young people, young teachers.
Yeah.
Because of, you know, we don't have the things that they have in Champaign and Springfield. We don't have the entertainment
Mm-hmm.
and sources like that. And what was interesting, I was talking to my doctor one day, and he said, when doctors get together, they talk about that too. They can't entice a lot of young doctors to come to Decatur.
Sure.
For the same reason. We
Right.
don't offer the cultural things that other cities do.
Right. So you have to have some other incentives to persuade talented young people to come to our community.
Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know we have a young lawyer in our office who was in Washington D.C. and now he's back in the community, and it's just really such a gift to our community that a young man with that skill, that intelligence, and that drive come back to the community and serve and make a difference.
Yes, that's true.
So, in terms of the teacher level, do you see a need for additional teachers to reduce the class size, or do you see a problem in that area?
Yes, I think we need more teachers. I think that the teachers need the resources too. One of the things that I've noticed is that teachers, they have iPads and different things, but they don't have the extras to go with them that they need to be able to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that teachers ask for on a Christmas wish list from the Private Prairie IEA retired teachers that are still part of the union. They ask for iTunes cards, for headphones, for, you know,
Yes.
these little things
Little
that they don't get.
Accessory, sure.
And
Sure. Well, our producer has just told us we're about running out of time, and it's gone so fast, Connie. Thank you for joining us, and good luck with your campaign, and you sure care about the kids, we can tell.
thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.